Welcome to the Connected Enterprise Podcast. This is Carl Lewis, your host from Vision33, and my guest today is Brandon Wilson. Brandon, welcome, my friend. Please
thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got where you are today, and what your work is, what you do.
Well, I keep it pretty simple. I spend every day that I have helping leaders unlock their maximum potential. That's what I do. I am a communication specialist or strategist by trade. I've been fortunate enough to be an award-winning communication strategist and accredited public relations professional. And the agency that I run is called Wilbron, and Wilbron exists for good, meaning that all the projects that we undertake do three things. They promote ethical business practices, they advance communities, and then thirdly, they uplift and advance the human condition. They help people become better, ordinary people. And in that time, I've had a chance to work with just some incredible leaders, from CEOs to college presidents. We started out as a higher education consultancy. So I've consulted with over 100 colleges and universities. And in that time, in assessing their organizations and their operations and meeting with those leaders and getting to know them intimately, what I've discovered is one, there are a lot of great mentors out there. And so a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is the product of great mentorship, but it's also the great product of access. These mentors and executives have given me great access into the trials and the triumphs that they experienced along the way to doing really bold things. And in discovering those things, what I learned is that there was a common thread called sabotage. Sabotage is any act or activity or force that seeks to limit you, stop you, or frustrate you along your journey to doing something incredible. The third thing that I benefited from was a life well lived. I am also a survivor of leadership sabotage. And so seeing this common thread of limiting forces in my own life, in the life of really gifted leaders, in the life of those people who were surrounding me, what I've learned is that many leaders are ill prepared to deal with betrayal, theft, and deceit along their leadership journey. Look, let's be honest, Carl, nobody wants to talk about that. We just want to talk about we built a great building or we got a promotion. Yep. But the reality is that leadership sabotage is wherever success is. And it's important that we prepare to protect our leadership journey from its impact.
You know, you wrote this book, which you sent me a copy of, and thank you very much, by the way. I think if you get to a certain age, at least certain level of experience, all of us have experienced some sort of sabotage. I like what you said, that it's, even on your personal journey, right, there can be sabotage. And that from my perspective, sometimes you do it to yourself, right, as well. So as an owner, I mean, how does an owner protect themselves from sabotage?
Ooh, that is a heavy one, because as much as we like to point to other folks and say, oh, that guy tripped me up, or that lady robbed me of that opportunity, or stole the company credit card. The most effective thieves sometimes have our own hands. And, the most clever saboteurs stare us in the face when we look in the mirror. And it's that kind of sabotage that hurts the worst. And so in the book, there is a whole portion. The back half of the book is dedicated to self-sabotage. And there's what I personally call a spectrum of susceptibility to self-sabotage. And it is a series of anecdotes that, if they sound close and familiar to you, you've probably found where you are on the spectrum of susceptibility for self-sabotage. And they include a few things. One is, and I won't talk about all of them, but one is a fear of success. It's important that we diagnose ourselves and say, am I really tripping myself up or robbing myself of opportunities because I am afraid of the responsibility that comes with success? Think about that. That's a huge one. Complacency. To move out of a place of complacency, you have to go to a place of discomfort. And a lot of people want to stay comfortable, even if it is in poverty, even if it is in failure. If we figured out a way to survive and be comfortable in the present, then we shun any innovation, any advancement, and we sabotage any opportunity to achieve those things. And they just go on and on and on in the book. It's really helping you identify the things in your life that keep perpetually moving you to steal opportunities from yourself. And now I'm an author. I run a company, help high-powered leaders achieve big things. But to your listeners and to your audience, I'm no exception. I mean, I steal opportunities for myself. And one of the stories that I love to tell is what happened in about 2014. I had a great idea that I will start a grocery delivery service technology. You just go online and say what you want, and moms would go and shop for other moms and bring groceries to your door. I mean, go figure. Isn't that a great idea? I hired attorneys. I hired consultants. I hired and interviewed a research firm to see what the, no pun intended, appetite was for such a service from people. And it was that meeting that was interesting. I was walking out from the researcher that I was interviewing, and she said, "Brandon, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure?" I said, "Of course." She said, "Well, there's another client who has a similar business. And let me tell you, everything indicates that he is struggling. I don't know if you want to do this." And I said, "Of course." And I sit in the car, and guess what the first thing I told myself after I turned on the ignition? I said, "Do I really want to do this?" I go home and talk to my wife, and she started talking about life. You just got out of this bad business deal. We have all of these obligations. Can you take on anything more? Then I started to talk to myself. What do I know about the grocery store in business? What do I know about technology? I don't know. I'm out of my depth here. Maybe I just need to give up and quit. And that's what I did. And there was another guy named Bill Smith who lived literally in a couple of neighborhoods down from me, who had the same idea. And he grew it. He saw himself as a winner. I saw myself as incapable. He saw himself as a winner. He grew that company. He travailed all of the challenges. He overcame the sabotage, the self-sabotage and otherwise. And he grew a company that would go on to sell to Target Corporation for $550 million. The same company. And it's called Shipped. You probably know about it. You probably use it. And if that wasn't enough of encouragement for you to take this step and not rob yourself of $550 million, I had the great fortune of meeting the chairman, president, and CEO of Target Corporation, Brian Cornell. We were in a private meeting, and he said, "You want to know why I purchased Shipped?" And everybody in the crowd was like, "Yeah, why did you buy this technology?" He said, "Because I thought it was revolutionary, that there was a platform that would allow moms to shop for other moms." That was my idea.
Yeah.
And I sabotaged myself. So I'm not immune to what I'm telling you, but my hope is that my lived experience and the things that I survived helps you overcome all of the forces that may be leading you to undercut or that are attempting to undercut your success.
You have a quote that you put in by John Maxwell, like in the first page of the book almost. It says, "If your giftedness is greater than your character, then your character will hold down your giftedness."
Oh, yes.
And I think, that perspective, right, of that character matters, integrity matters, honesty matters, trustworthiness matters more than how talented I am, right? In the end, that you can not know anything about your dream, but if you have a dream and you have all of those other big things, right? Character and honesty and integrity,
Right.
You can do a lot.
You can do a lot. The quote that I adopted yesterday, and I made it up in a conversation that I'll share with y'all today, is that right is undefeated. Right is undefeated. Doing things the wrong way, you have to depend on a couple of things. You have to depend on luck, that people won't see it. You have to depend on people bending the rules a little bit to give you some allowances. You're going to have to allow on a little bit of grace to say, you close to that line, but that's not undefeated. Somebody may see it, that luck may run out, they may not offer grace, and they may not bend the rules for you. But if you do it the right way, it works every single time. It is undefeated. And the way to overcome betrayal, theft, and deceit, or any manner of leadership sabotage or sabotage in any form, is two things. One is having the courage to lead with integrity. And I'm going to stop at that one first. Mm-hmm. That's a tough thing to do. Integrity, it sounds really easy, but imagine going to work, reporting on Zoom or reporting to the office, however we go to work. And I want you to think about all of those people who work around you, who are willing to sacrifice integrity, sound judgment, their moral compass for self-preservation, for that next paycheck, for that next raise, for that bonus, because they, hopefully nobody will see it. I got some luck. Somebody will help offer me some grace, or they'll bend the rules for me. It is more of those folks than there are people who are leading with unyielding integrity. So as soon as you say, I'm going to be the latter, you become an audacious leader. And it takes courage for you to have that kind of impact on a culture that says otherwise. The second thing that is a silver bullet to sabotage, to leadership sabotage, is honing a positive self-identity. And this is difficult too, because you may have had a relationship with authority figures from the time you were a child, where parents perhaps told you you could only be this. You could not be greater than this. You wouldn't amount to anything. You maybe have been exposed to abusive relationships, or you may want to be as successful as your mind and your imagination says that you are, but you don't have the opportunity to see anybody who's ever achieved what you dream about when you're by yourself. And so you have to overcome all of those things to see yourself as a winner, as a finisher, as a fighter, in order to bust through that brick wall or those limiting forces that says, stop, you need to sabotage yourself.
Very interesting. We talked, a few weeks ago about the importance of building trust in your business.
Yeah.
And, a friend of mine taught me one time, and it didn't say it in these words, but basically it was the concept that trust is a precious commodity and you don't give it away to somebody who hasn't earned it.
That's right.
How important is the element of trust in preventing, employees and others from sabotaging the business?
Oh, it's incredibly important. And I dare say that it is the one resource that I don't think we give away freely enough. And so let me back up and say, protecting yourself from sabotage is not a matter of paranoia. It is a matter of wisdom. So how do you know that somebody is setting you up for sabotage, or maybe susceptible to the forces that may lead them to sabotage you, or for you to sabotage yourself? Well, one of the things you could do is to be a leader that believes in distributive leadership. Give people things to do. Give people things to lead. Give people accountability, and then they will show themselves. Because pressure has a way of revealing who we are in times of stress. Yeah. And so it's important for you to use trust and to use accountability to cut the grass, the proverbial grass around your mist, so you see where all the snakes are. Another reason why that's so important is because you'll start to see people who are responsibility dodgers. Those responsibility dodgers fall into the category of defiance, and that is a category of sabotage as well, employee defiance, and passive aggressive defiers are just not available when responsibility or need is there. They find themselves sick, or they on vacation during known busy times. And you want to know that. And the only way you do that is to engage in the exercise of trust, is to start extending responsibilities to people so that they show themselves for who they are as they seek to either scuttle or to accomplish the objectives that you've placed at their feet.
You know, I sometimes, and you kind of touched on it there, sometimes sabotage by employees it's not like they have a grand scheme. They're just being themselves, right? And I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, and I think you're right, but people who do it purposefully, right? They get frustrated, they don't think they're getting a fair shake or whatever it may be, and they purposely set out to sabotage, make something not work, make something not as successful as it could be, don't do their part. How do they justify in their own minds their actions?
Well, that's a great question. And there are actually 8 motivations. And they include, this is not all of them, but they include unmet personal needs. You know, there are some people who see success in you that they don't feel that they could ever achieve on their own. And maybe move to one of the horsemen of sabotage, which we'll talk about a little bit, maybe move to jealousy and then acting upon that jealousy. The other driver is a desire to build a life grander than what they know to be true for themselves. And so they build these outsized personas. And instead of being honest about who they are, they want to keep the house of cards alive. They want to appear, is almost that those people who have imposter syndrome. They want to look like the CEO, sound like the executive vice president, but they're anything but. They're ill prepared, they're ill equipped. And instead of you giving them responsibility or having a chance to question them, they build these walls around them that either keep you at bay or they exercise other activities that lead to your failure so that you won't get close to their midst. They're all manner of sabotage. There are 8 of them. And some of them even lead to saboteurs believing that leadership sabotage is an act of altruism, where they're actually doing some good for the organization by stealing employees and getting them to come to their company, or stealing clients. And they tell themselves things like, man, if I had these resources, I would do this and that with it. If I were leading this company, I would do it this way. I would give out more bonuses to people so that they can, and they convince themselves that they have the ability to swoop down and save others and save themselves and help an organization by keeping that organization frustrated and stagnated for their own selfish benefit. And so you heard me talk a little bit about the 4 horsemen of sabotage. For anybody in your audience who wants to get a cheat sheet to see if sabotage is about to strike them, there are 4 things that you can look to or look for in your network. Or you can look within yourselves to find. And then I call these the 4 horsemen of sabotage. And the first one, in no particular order, is jealousy. And we talked about what that is. And we know it is the most commonly known of all the forces, but it's also the most misunderstood. And the book talks about the levels to jealousy. If it's not caught when it's just a notion, it builds on itself to become covetousness and other variations that compel you to act a certain kind of activity. The other one is arrogance. If you find yourself or someone in your midst who may be vulnerable or susceptible to arrogance, then they are positioned to act in ways to preserve themselves and to have a lack of awareness around how their activities impact those around them. It's almost, they can be overtaken or overrun by ambition, if you will, those who may be affected by arrogance. The other one is lying. And lying is the most commonly used weapon of saboteurs. And there's two distinctions for lying. There's lying to distract from yourself. Don't look at me, look over there so I can continue to be in my own bubble, content with my own responsibilities. And then there's lying to intentionally harm others. That person did this, go and lock them up. Or that person did this to me or harassed me or whatever it is, fire or terminate them. And it's a weapon that's utilized by the horsemen of lying. And then the other one is seduction. And seduction is the wielding of forces to convince people to come along with them along the journey to do things that may skirt close to the line of ethics or legality. And these folks are very charismatic. They are very well manicured, and they appear to be upwardly mobile. And what they always share with those people who they want to come along their journey is that if you join them and we pull it off, then I will let you celebrate in the spoils of my benefit, of my promotion, of my raise, of my increase, so that we can do it again. But every time, the end game for the seducers is actually keeping you close at bay so that you become the fall person when the gig is eventually up.
Really a fascinating, sort of study. And you've got, just a few pages on it in the book. And I do hope, if you're a small business person, a sole proprietor, this is a topic worthy of your investigating. And if you haven't really thought about it, if you haven't been through it yet, or aren't experiencing it to some degree, you should get prepared. I haven't seen a better resource than this book, for helping business owners to sort of be on the alert, and to know themselves, I think, really well also in this process. So lastly, Brandon, I was wondering, have you seen over the last 2 years, as we've been going through this pandemic, have you seen any pandemic impact on this whole area of, sabotage in business?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we could look at we could look at a lot of examples of it that started pre-pandemic, but they're starting to look at now. I mean, you can look at Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes' story. Is a classic story. I mean, she sabotaged some incredible people, from General Mathis, from former Secretary of State's Henry Kissinger, by getting them to believe in something that wasn't, and to release their monies to do that. I mean, you see those things happen over and over again. We also saw the height of leadership in politics be one that's anchored in bullying. And bullying is a classic exercise of sabotage. Now, I'm not saying Republicans or Democrats or whatever. I'm not getting political. I want to stay politically agnostic. But one of the things that cannot be debated is that we have seen the impact of a leadership culture of bullying take over our culture. And it's starting to impact every facet and actually lead what I would like to call an era of meanness. And so we're finding ourselves living in a more mean society, which makes us really have to be more vigilant around looking for those horsemen of sabotage around us so that we can protect our journeys and ultimately have maximum impact along our leadership journey. Here's why it's important. Here's why it's important. It's not important to say, hey, I got you. I found you out. That's not what this book is about. What this book is about clearing your leadership runway so that your airplane can get maximum speed to go to the height that you were built to go. And if we allow that runway to be cluttered with defiance and with bullying and with selfishness or whatever it is, then we won't allow ourselves the speed that we need to take off. And we will allow those forces to rob the world of the gifts of your leadership. If Steve Jobs had allowed sabotage to impact his life, we would never have the iPhone. We would never have the MacBook Pro. The same thing for Martin Luther King Jr. We would never have a dream for what society could become if we allowed the forces of J. Edgar Hoover and COINTELPRO and all to be successful. And so those are just two examples. And I always share with people, for every Martin Luther King, there were perhaps 200 more of him. And Steve Jobs, probably 300 more Steve Jobs. But they never crossed the finish line because they didn't do the work of clearing their leadership runway. You now have a tool to help you do that.
Sounds great, Brandon. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today. This is a great topic, and I hope to see you again in the future talking about this to more of my friends. I have hundreds of small business friends, and I think this would be a topic if we really worked at it, we could sit around and talk about for hours and hours, and both make us laugh and make us cry. So there's nothing better than that. So thanks so much. Just everyone, you can get this book on Amazon, and checked on it today, and it's there. So look it up, Sabotage by Brandon Wilson. It'll be something you'll be thankful that you took a look at. Till we meet again, everybody, please stay connected.